While the world grapples with post-pandemic growth challenges, China has quietly redefined the global industrial landscape. No longer just the world's factory in the traditional sense, China is now an industrial empire with a slew of ultra-profitable sectors spanning rare earths, semiconductors, construction, real estate, and e-commerce. This isn't just about profits. It's about controlling global supply chains, a complex geopolitical game that Beijing is playing with remarkable finesse. Welcome to Top 10 Discoveries Official, where we don't just compile jaw-dropping numbers, but dissect the deeper strategies behind them. Today, we dive into the 10 industries generating colossal profits for China and why these should make Washington genuinely uneasy. A few figures to underscore China's dominance. China's mining industry is projected to generate nearly 14 trillion USD by 2025, equivalent to the combined GDP of all Nordic countries. The construction sector produces over 9.5 trillion US dollars, surpassing the entire US real estate market in 2024. China's e-commerce industry, led by giants like Alibaba and JD.com, handles over 1 billion transactions daily. But don't just focus on the profits. Look at the layered strategies behind each industry. From tightening control over domestic resources and bolstering state-owned giants to creating tech export ecosystems across Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. These moves are redefining 21st century industrial power. Now let's join Top 10 Discoveries Official to decode the 10 super profitable industries fueling China's rise and understand who's playing the chess game and who's being checkmated. Top 10. Oil wholesale. With an estimated revenue of $1,209.8 billion US dollars in 2025, China's oil wholesale industry isn't just a profit powerhouse, it's a strategic pillar of national energy security. As the world's largest energy consumer, China imports an average of 10.3 million barrels of oil daily, equating to over 3.75 billion barrels annually. With Brent crude prices hovering around $80 to $85 per barrel, the raw import value could exceed $300 billion yearly, not counting the value chain of refining, distribution, and re-export. Oil wholesaling in China isn't just about buying and selling. It involves a complex network of companies like Sinopec, CNPC, and CNOOC, alongside exchanges like the Shanghai International Energy Exchange, INE, where China launched yuan-denominated oil contracts to challenge the petrodollar's dominance. Strategic Petroleum Reserves, SPR, with a capacity exceeding 500 million barrels allow Beijing to manage long-term supply and mitigate geopolitical risks. However, heavy reliance on imports is a significant vulnerability. China faces risks from oil price volatility, Middle East conflicts, and geopolitical sanctions impacting supply chains. Additionally, pressure to transition to renewables to meet carbon reduction goals creates a dilemma. Balancing oil needs for economic growth with climate commitments. Geopolitically, the oil wholesale industry strengthens China's global influence, from increased investments in oil fields in Iran, Venezuela, and Africa, to establishing energy corridors under the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. As the U.S. tightens semiconductor technology restrictions, Beijing is leveraging control over input resources like oil as a potent soft power tool. Top 9. Steel manufacturing. With projected revenue of $1,296.4 billion US dollars in 2025, China's steel industry remains a cornerstone of global industry. As the world's largest steel producer, China accounts for 53.6% of global crude steel output, producing 1,017 million tons in 2023. This dwarfs the U.S., which produces about 86 million tons annually, highlighting China's massive scale and dominance. Steel is the backbone of any industrialized economy, supporting infrastructure, skyscrapers, high-speed railways, automobiles, shipbuilding, industrial machinery, and strategic weaponry. In China, steel demand is driven by mega projects under the 14th Five-Year Plan's 4 pillars of infrastructure: bridges, roads, railways, energy, and the BRI, where Chinese firms supply construction materials to over 140 countries. China boasts giants like Baowu Steel Group, the world's largest steel producer, 132 million tons in 2023, alongside HBIS Group, and Steel, and Shugang Group. Beyond domestic markets, China exports steel to over 160 countries, leading market share in Southeast Asia, Africa, South America, and the Middle East. However, this dominance makes China's steel industry a target in global trade wars, particularly with the U.S. and EU. The U.S. imposed 25% tariffs on Chinese steel for alleged dumping, while the EU tightened import quotas to protect local production. Moreover, steel production is a high-emission sector, contributing 10 to 15% of China's industrial CO2, pressuring its 2060 carbon neutrality goal. Geopolitically, controlling steel supply gives China leverage in trade and investment negotiations. For instance, Chinese firms supply materials and technology for projects in Africa and South Asia, often with conditions tying contracts to Chinese contractors and equipment. The steel industry isn't just a revenue juggernaut, it's a soft power tool in Beijing's arsenal. China doesn't just sell steel, it sells influence. Top 8. Software development. With estimated revenue of $1,331.3 billion in 2025, China's software industry is not only a profit goldmine, but also the technological backbone of its bid to dominate the global digital race. From mobile apps and operating systems to supercomputers and artificial intelligence, China is advancing rapidly, deeply, and broadly across the most critical software domains of the 21st century. Per Statista, China's software industry surpassed $1.3 trillion in 2025, with an average annual growth rate exceeding 10% over the past decade. Enterprise software, ERP, supply chain management, AI for manufacturing, is a key driver, while AI, cloud computing, blockchain, cybersecurity, and online gaming continue to surge. China hosts over 40,000 software companies, led by giants like Huawei, Tencent, Alibaba Cloud, Baidu AI, iFlyTech, and fast-growing unicorns like SenseTime and Megvii. China's AI sector alone is projected to reach $61.85 billion by 2025, IDC China, making it the world's second-largest AI market after the US, but closing the gap rapidly. Software development in China isn't just about technology, it's a geopolitical battleground. The US has blacklisted numerous Chinese software firms, from Huawei to SenseTime, citing domestic surveillance or military ties. China is countering with platforms like Huawei's Harmony OS, Alibaba Cloud, and Tencent Cloud, replacing Windows, Android, Google Cloud, and AWS. In 2024, Beijing allocated an additional $1.4 trillion budget for core technology, with software, especially cybersecurity, industrial operations, and defense, taking a significant share. Challenges persist: reliance on U.S. hardware, a shortage of top-tier creative talent, and fierce competition among domestic big tech. Yet, with a domestic market of nearly 1 billion internet users, advanced digital payment systems, and a robust startup ecosystem, China is building a parallel software ecosystem where Silicon Valley is no longer the sole center. From gaming platforms like Honor of Kings to AI solutions for smart cities, from autonomous vehicle operating systems to urban surveillance software, China isn't just coding software, it's coding the future of global technology. Top 7. Bridge, tunnel, and subway construction. While developed nations debate infrastructure budgets, China has quietly built over 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail, 6 of the world's 10 longest bridges, and a subway system expanding faster than anywhere else on Earth. With estimated revenue of $1,563.5 billion in 2025, China's bridge, tunnel, and subway construction industry is a colossal machine, not just domestically, but as a tool for exporting strategic influence. Per Reuters, China has invested hundreds of billions of USD to modernize transport infrastructure, including mega bridges like the 55-kilometer Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge and the over 30-kilometer Qining Mountain Tunnel, cementing its status as the global hub for infrastructure technology. China's urban subway network reached over 10,000 kilometers by late 2024, accounting for more than 70% of new global subway mileage from 2020 to 2025. The real game changer, however, lies beyond China's borders. The Belt and Road Initiative has transformed China into the infrastructure architect of the developing world. From mountain tunnels in Pakistan, CPEC, to a $1.57 billion USD metro system in Lagos, Nigeria, to strategic bridges in Bangladesh, Laos, and Ethiopia, Chinese firms like China Railway Construction Corporation, CRCC, and CCCC don't just build, they design, finance, and train local engineers. Infrastructure geopolitics is a soft power weapon. Every completed bridge or inaugurated subway line marks Chinese influence in that nation. This alarms the US and EU, prompting countermeasures like the $600 billion Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, PGII. Still in planning, while China's projects are already pouring concrete, laying tracks, and running trials. Domestically, this sector drives economic stimulus. The 14th Five-Year Plan, 2021 to 2025, commits trillions of yuan to build over 3,000 kilometers of new subways, 2,500 bridges and tunnels, reducing pollution, enhancing urban connectivity, and creating millions of technical jobs. Challenges exist: maintenance costs, local government debt, and overcapacity in rural areas spark debate. Some projects are criticized as empty infrastructure, bridges with no traffic, subways running at under 20% capacity. Yet China persists, driven by strategic goals, not just building but exporting a growth model. When a Chinese bridge spans the Nile or a Chinese subway glides through Jakarta's capital, it's more than concrete and steel. It's a statement of China's capability. Top 6. Residential real estate. With projected revenue of $1,709 billion in 2025, residential real estate remains a linchpin of China's urban economy. This industry not only reflects the heat of the housing market, but also serves as a direct indicator of the financial health of China's middle class, the core driver of domestic growth. Rapid urbanization, with tens of millions migrating to cities annually, has created immense housing demand. In response, the Chinese government set an ambitious goal: build 6.5 million affordable rental units in 2025 with a budget of 1.38 trillion yuan, approximately 190 billion USD. This isn't just about social stability, but a strategy to rebalance the market between luxury and affordable housing, which is currently severely imbalanced. Behind the 1.7 trillion USD revenue lies a dual paradox: oversupply in lower-tier cities, but a shortage of affordable housing in megacities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. The phenomenon of ghost apartments continues to grow, while home prices remain 20 to 30 times the average urban resident's annual income. The market has also been hit hard by recent crackdowns on real estate credit, part of efforts to mitigate systemic risks from a property bubble. As a result, major developers like Evergrande and Country Garden have faced liquidity crises, leaving projects unfinished and eroding homebuyer confidence. With its massive revenue, residential real estate isn't just a super profitable sector. It's the most interconnected, impacting banking, fiscal policy, and social stability. A misstep here could drag down the entire economy. Yet China can't stop. The government's commitment of over 1.38 trillion yuan to affordable housing signals a long-term focus on real estate as a tool for managing population dynamics and shaping domestic consumption. To foreign investors, especially in the US, China's residential real estate is both a potential gold mine and a ticking debt bomb, depending on how Beijing balances growth and stability in the coming years. Top 5. Mail order and online shopping. With estimated revenue of $2,067.5 billion US dollars in 2025. Mail order and online shopping isn't just a commerce segment, it's the logistical engine of China's digital consumer empire. This sector merges logistics infrastructure, tech platforms, big data, and evolving consumer behavior into a 24/7, borderless commerce machine. This industry is a distinct branch of e-commerce, focusing on direct-to-consumer sales through remote orders, from traditional catalogs and phone orders to modern websites, apps, and live streams. The fusion of online shopping with highly efficient delivery systems, backed by giants like SF Express and Cainiao, Alibaba, has enabled China to create a real-time supply chain where rural consumers can receive goods within 24 hours, despite thousands of kilometers. The $2,067.5 billion USD figure reflects the sector's true power, dominating the domestic market and reshaping cross-border trade, especially via platforms like AliExpress, Temu, and Shein. These firms use a direct-to-consumer (DTC) model, bypassing traditional distribution channels to offer lower prices and faster delivery, directly challenging US and European retail models. Geopolitically, this rise raises concerns in the West, not just for its price and scale dominance, but because China controls the entire value chain, from production to distribution to user data. A $4 Temu shirt isn't just a product, it's a symbol of shifting power in global commerce. Downsides are emerging, however. High-intensity logistics strain the environment, carbon emissions, packaging waste, and raise labor exploitation concerns in some low-cost supply chains, an invisible cost of maximum efficiency. Still, in the 2025 global commerce map, China's mail order and online shopping sector holds a clear lead with no signs of slowing. For the US, this isn't just competition, it's a policy challenge. How to counter a near-perfect ecosystem. Top 4. Real estate development and management revenue of $2,086.6 billion USD in 2025 not only places China's real estate development and management industry among the super profitable elite, but also establishes it as the financial backbone of the world's second largest economy. This sector accounts for nearly 30% of China's GDP when including related industries, construction, materials, finance, furniture, consumption. Giants like Country Garden, Vanke, Greenland Holdings, and China Evergrande were once seen as global real estate growth engines, creating millions of jobs and tens of millions of new homes in just 2 decades. The $2,086.6 billion USD figure, larger than the GDP of Brazil or Russia, covers not just housing but also building management, offices, industrial zones, and shopping malls, forming a vast ecosystem tied to land, assets, and cash flow. However, this growth comes with systemic risks, epitomized by China Evergrande's crisis, with over $300 billion in debt, shaking global financial markets. Per Oxford Economics, the sector faces rising bad debt, with about 10% of real estate loans at risk of default in 2025 if the market doesn't recover. The Chinese government has implemented controls, tightening credit, enforcing 3 red lines, and regulating land transfers to prevent a bubble and protect the financial system. But these measures have slowed growth, reduced buyer confidence, and increased inventory. Geopolitically, China's real estate market is closely watched by global investors due to its ties to international finance. Volatility here can impact stock prices, interest rates, and investment flows, not just in China, but across emerging markets. Long-term, Beijing aims to shift from speculative property growth to sustainable, equitable urban development. This means moving from speed to quality, urban management, tech-integrated building operations, and rental housing development. Despite challenges, real estate development and management remains a critical economic lever for China, a source of pride for its scale and a complex puzzle for risk management. For the US and the world, it's a global economic hotspot demanding close attention, as any stumble could trigger a domino effect. Top 3. Online shopping. China's online shopping industry isn't just a consumption model. It's a massive digital ecosystem linking billions of daily transactions, hundreds of millions of users, and tens of millions of small and medium enterprises. With revenue exceeding $2,547.5 billion US, China leads global e-commerce, far outpacing the US and all of Europe. Nowhere else is e-commerce as expansive and efficient as in China. This growth is fueled by comprehensive digital infrastructure, over 1.1 billion mobile internet users, an 87% digital payment penetration rate, and same-day delivery logistics covering over 95% of county-level cities. Tech empires like Alibaba, Taobao, Tmall, JD.com, and Pinduoduo dominate domestically while exporting their model globally. China's cross-border e-commerce reached nearly 3,800 billion CNY in 2023 and is poised for strong growth amid a stable yuan and government support. Geopolitically, e-commerce is a soft gateway for China to expand tech and data influence. Hundreds of millions of users from Southeast Asia, Africa to South America shopping on Chinese platforms generate not just revenue but strategic data and supply chain leverage for domestic firms. Challenges include reliance on intermediary platforms, fostering unfair competition, persistent counterfeiting, and copyright issues. Additionally, U.S. restrictions on cross-border data and tariffs on Chinese goods pose new geopolitical barriers. In the near future, Chinese e-commerce will evolve beyond a digital marketplace into a platform integrating AI, live streaming, smart payments, and automated logistics. This is birthing a new generation of businesses where sellers are AI and stores are phone apps. With nearly 1/5 of China's GDP driven by online consumption and a growing export share, online shopping is where technology, consumption, and digital power converge, a sector no nation can ignore to understand China's economic might. Top 2. Construction. When discussing China's rise, few industries illustrate it as vividly as construction. With revenue reaching $2,797.4 billion in 2025, higher than the GDP of France or Canada, this sector is a super profitable pillar with profound geopolitical impact. Per Mordor Intelligence, China's construction market could hit $4,820 billion by late 2025 when including untracked segments. Research in Markets values the industry at roughly 9,130 billion Chinese yuan, or over $1,250 billion at 2025 exchange rates. These varying estimates reflect the complexity of construction supply chains, from primary contractors to material factories, automation tech, and smart housing. Domestically, China is a massive construction site. The 14th Five-Year Plan, 2021 to 2025, mandates mega projects, over 4,000 kilometers of high-speed rail annually, sustainable urbanization in over 300 county-level cities, thousands of sea-spanning bridges, mountain tunnels, and smart residential zones rising at unprecedented speed. Globally, firms like China Railway Construction Corporation, CRCC, and China State Construction Engineering Corporation, CSCEC, extend influence through hundreds of BRI projects, from Pakistan's North-South Expressway to Angola's International Airport to Nigeria's metro lines. China doesn't just build bridges, it builds a map of influence. The geopolitical impact is clear. Infrastructure leads, investment follows, influence spreads. Every bridge or metro line built by Chinese contractors is a soft flag in the competition with the U.S. and West. While the U.S. debates domestic highway upgrades, China operates thousands of bridges across other continents. But scale brings risks: property bubbles, local government debt, and questionable economic efficiency of some projects. Beijing has adjusted, tightening efficiency standards and promoting automation and green construction to sustain profits without macroeconomic imbalance. With millions of workers, hundreds of billions invested annually, and influence spanning borders, construction embodies China's ambition and strength in the 21st century. Top 1. Copper mining. How does an industry with a production value of just $45 billion generate nearly $14 trillion in revenue? This paradox forces the world to rethink how China builds supply chains and soft power in copper mining. Far beyond digging ore, China has turned copper into the lifeblood of the tech, clean energy, and geopolitical eras. According to Visual Capitalist, China's copper mining output is projected to hit 4.4 million tons in 2025, surpassing giants like Codelco, Chile, BHP, Australia, and Freeport-McMoRan, US. At current prices of $10,327 per ton, or 4.6873 US dollars per pound per macro trends. This output's market value is roughly 45.44 billion US dollars. Yet the 13,897.9 billion US dollars revenue reveals a stunning truth. China doesn't just mine, it dominates the entire value chain from extraction, refining, and chip manufacturing to EV batteries and smart grids. This explains why China captures a massive share of the global copper market's projected 13.15 billion USD revenue by 2032, Fortune Business Insights. China is redefining the industry's value, not through raw products, but through accumulated tech, manufacturing, and export power. Giants like Zijin Mining Group, Jiangxi Copper, and China Aluminum Corporation drive this dominance. They control domestic mines and invest heavily abroad, from Congo to Peru, Kazakhstan to Afghanistan. In each location, China brings not just machinery, but capital, expertise, and a strategy to secure resources, control supply chains. Copper is critical for EVs, charging stations, superconducting grids, wind turbines, solar panels, and high-end electronics. Controlling copper supply means controlling inputs for the digital and green economies, key battlegrounds in the next decade's global competition. Geopolitically, China's copper dominance alarms the US and Europe, especially as their domestic mines deplete and supply chains face geopolitical disruptions. While Washington pushes the CHIPS Act, IRA, and mining investments in Latin America and Africa, Beijing is a decade ahead, staking claims in the richest deposits. Challenges remain. Copper mining pollutes water, soil, and air, with risks of labor disputes and conflicts in host nations. But China mitigates much of this with cleaner smelting tech and state-level agreements, leaving host countries with few alternatives. With revenue nearly 14 trillion USD, 5 times Germany's GDP, copper mining is not just a super profitable industry, but a national strategy. It's clear proof that in the new world, whoever controls copper controls the future. China isn't just leading in numbers, it's reshaping how the global economy operates. From tons of copper ore buried underground to trillions of USD in e-commerce data flows, Beijing has woven a tight industrial geopolitical matrix where profit isn't just a measure of success, it's a strategic weapon. In every industry, China isn't just working for money. It's playing to control supply chains, set standards, and expand influence beyond its borders. While the US and West strive to rebuild domestic manufacturing, reduce dependency, and launch competing initiatives, China has anchored its interests in most developing nations through long-term contracts, hard infrastructure, and soft supply chains. Which industry do you think will dominate the next decade? Can the US muster the strength to change the game? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe to Top 10 Discoveries Official for deeper analyses and shocking data on global tech, geopolitical, and economic races.